What up, perps? Kid Copious back in effect. Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here. We're repping America, the center, common sense, freedom, and the all important peace around the world. 'Cause that's what it's all about. This show is going out to a friend of mine, Danny. His family is spreading his ashes in the ocean today. And it looks increasingly more and more like it was his demons that got him. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but, let's just get this show popping. Misfire. Isn't that ironic? And it isn't ironic. Yeah. Oh, that was some good stream. I dedicated this show to a friend of mine who may have lost his war against the demons. And, during the same week here, it was revealed that Matthew Perry, star of Friends, passed away due to ketamine, however you pronounce it. Made me think about, Carrie Fisher and countless others, who either hit some sort of speed bump on the road to life or suffered an injury that caused them to go back on pain medication. Legal drugs, whether they're legal or not, allow the demon to rise. Something I've struggled with my whole life. 3 decades now. If you are struggling with addiction or you know somebody who's struggling with addiction, just know that it's a lifelong battle. I once had some oral surgery, and the mouthwash that was given to me contained large amounts of alcohol, and I didn't read it. I usually read food labels and things like that, but I didn't read it. I just used it, and I felt myself changing, and I could hear those voices in my head again. Those voices are always there. And one of the problems we have is that nobody wants to talk about addiction. Nobody wants to deal with addiction. Addiction is a very difficult thing. It's difficult for the individual. It's difficult for the people who are trying to help the individual. And it's difficult for society. I was listening this morning to Carly Hansen, her song Fake Smile. My demons have demons, and my tears, they have reasons. Sounds much better when she says it, but it's about her seeing somebody who's struggling with life at a bar and offering words of encouragement. And it really strikes home because that's how it is for me too. We can see it in each other. I could see the people who struggle with addiction. I could see the people who are struggling just to get through each day. I've been there. And that's one of the things that shapes me here, is that I've seen both sides of everything. I know what works and what doesn't work. And it leads me into one of the core tenets of the whole idea of purple state as a way of thinking, as a philosophy. One of those tenets is flexibility. You have to be able to move, with the changes in the problems that are facing us. Something that used to work may not work anymore. The fact that, we have lots of prescription medications out there to help with pain and to help with anxiety and depression. But at the same time, those very same helpful drugs can lead people back to the bad drugs or to overdoses or just even overuse. And that's the way I think about politics too. This idea that sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. That doesn't mean we give up on trying to cure the disease. It means that we have to look for alternate ways of doing it. And quite frankly, the people who are wedded to the Democrats or the Republicans feel that there's only one way to do things, their way. And that's not the purple state way. And we're going to look at a few examples of that as we go through some of the stuff that happened this week. First, though, I got to start off with this. Rick Caruso was running for mayor against Bass here in LA. And I supported him, even though he's a Democrat. He was a common sense Democrat. Let's start calling them that, common sense Democrats. Democrats who have a progressive viewpoint, but understand that that progressive viewpoint is not the answer to everything, that sometimes you have to take a more conservative approach. But Rick put out this on Instagram. Last night, President Biden shared with me how critical California is to his reelection. Guy's not running. I'm just going to say it again. He's not running, but I'm all in to support Joe Biden. And then he goes on to say we can't afford the chaos of Trump and his disdain for fundamental principles of our democracy. Okay. We need a stable leader. That's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not the stable leader who has experience to guide America through the complications of our world. Joe Biden has used the left, the far left's answer to everything. And it's not working. It's absolutely not working. You know, here in California, we're facing $68 billion deficit. We've defaulted on a $20 billion loan from the federal government. Our government it can't even afford to restock office supplies. But they've spent billions on a high-speed rail to nowhere. They've spent billions expanding Medi-Cal to all undocumented immigrants, while losing billions in tax revenues from people and companies leaving the state. It really does not have to be this way. Well-governed states currently have a surplus while also providing a much higher quality of government services. California is a failing because it has only applied one point of view. And you wonder how people don't see this. It's simple. That is a simple answer. You can't see what isn't shown. When the media omits details about George Floyd, or when they sort of just ignore the story about a town in Michigan where the Muslim town council removed pride flags. See, people might not know that there are Muslims in the United States that are extremely homophobic. You might think it's liberal to vote for Muslims, but in reality, they are diametrically opposed to progressive ways of thinking. But if the media doesn't point it out, most people don't know about it. I understand people are busy. I'm very busy. But I find time to read multiple news sources. I read a lot of news sources off of an app called Smart News. And I don't even know if they're progressive papers or if they're conservative papers, right-wing, left-wing. I don't know. I read a lot of different articles that just lay out facts. Like that town in Michigan. It was just right there. This is what happened. But if you're not shown it, you don't see it. And that's what they do. And speaking of California, Ohtani signs with the Dodgers for $700 million. They're doing some creative stuff with the way he's going to get paid. He's going to get most of that $700 million pretty much after he's done playing baseball. And he will definitely move out of LA by then. And California will go after him because liberal policies require a lot of money. You can't let people like that slip away. But I love this. Ohtani signs with Dodgers for $700 million. Will receive $58 after California taxes. California is extremely highly taxed. And yet, we're broken. Money doesn't solve it. It's policies. It's points of view. It's being able to look at a situation and making hard choices. Do I want to round up every single homeless person and relocate the RVs to a camp, relocate the tents to a camp? No, I don't really like the idea of rounding up people and putting them in a camp. But that might be the only solution. But it's always one point of view with these people. And it's only one viewpoint. My wife was telling me about a 50-year-old man who swims with a girls' swim team. And we're talking about 10-year-old girls. Now, this man is allowed in the locker room because he identifies as a woman. But parents are not allowed to photograph or videotape these things because of the children's privacy. You're worrying about that one man, but you're not worrying about the girls. You're worrying about the criminal, but not the victim. one point of view. See, only from the point of view of the homeless person. That's what they do. Another thing they really like to do is omit things. It recently came out that when Hunter Biden said, my father was not financially involved in my business, the New York Times realized that that was a little obscure, not financially involved, but maybe involved. And financially involved meaning put up money to start the company. But they omitted the financially and quoted him as saying, my father was not involved in my business, which we know is not true. Whether or not that's worth impeaching Joe Biden, quite frankly, I think there needs to be an investigation. Something was up, okay? And America needs to know the truth. Even if what Joe Biden did was not impeachable or illegal, it was in bad form, and people need to know that. And what blows my mind as an older person is I can just imagine in the past, Hunter Biden, the Biden crime family, it'd be 24/7 on the news. Reporters would be like killing each other to try to be the first to break the case. Now, it's just a rush to cover it up, contextualize it, or spin it, which oddly enough is what the media used to do to cover up celebrity sexuality or other discretions. And I wish we would go back to that, where the spin machine was only used on immaterial things. You know, a celebrity who maybe did something a little risque. But they're covering up for their guy. And again, I've said this before, but is that the government that you want? Is that the country you want to live in? Because right now, you might be on the side of Joe Biden. You might be happy that the media is going after Trump, but spinning everything about Biden. But what if one day you wake up and you realize that Biden's not the person you thought he was? And then all of a sudden you're going to see all of the lies, all of the cover-ups. One point of view. This is an actual Senate bill that passed in California. Microstamping on cartridge cases. SB 452 will require, starting in 2028, all pistols have microstamping technology, which will leave unique markings on cartridge cases when the pistol is fired. One point of view. The point of view of going after legal gun owners. Criminals will simply just get guns from other states. That's what they'll do. And even if they get them in California, they're going to be stolen. So they're going to be useless to actually link anybody to that pistol. But meanwhile, like here in LA, Gascon, oui, Gascon, that fuckface, he doesn't even use the enhancements that are available to him. One viewpoint, one POV, the criminal. That's what they care about. Oh, we don't want to put this guy away for an extra 5 years because he used a gun in the commission of a crime. That's what should be law. SB 452 should read that sentencing enhancements must be used. How about that? How about we go after the criminals instead of doing what they're doing? Because you know what they're doing? They're not trying to create a system in which they can catch bad guys. They're creating a system to make guns more expensive. So poor people can't buy pistols. These are infringements. You can contextualize and spin this however you want to say that it's not violating the Second Amendment, but it is. It's infringing. It's a purposeful bill designed to make guns more expensive. Think about it for a second. A gun, there's a bullet right here. A pin hits the primer that sets off the cartridge. Very simple. Some springs, some levers, some doodads. Microstamping each bullet as it goes out? Come on. You think that's going to work? Speaking of, do you think that's going to work? Protesters shut down LA freeway for miles today, leading to fights and 75 arrests. They went out about 9 a.m., block traffic, stop school buses. 2 school buses at the very least were delayed by that, and who knows how many more at the back of the pack. But they block school buses. Ceasefire activists. Okay, ceasefire activists. That's what these are. These aren't pro-Palestinian. These are ceasefire activists. At least Tesla's going to try to solve it. Cybertruck to come with deployable scoop for removing climate change protesters from roadway. Yeah, we're coming to that point because the police took over an hour before they started removing them. And have you noticed that the way that they remove them, or how people, when we see videos of civilians removing people, they lay there like a sack of flour, you drag them off, as soon as you let go, they run back out. They're trying to piss people off. They are trained to piss people off. They are trained to escalate situations to the point of dangerousness. Because these people who are in charge of these groups don't give a shit about those people. It's not about them. It's all about it's not about the protesters. It's about the people who organize it. It's all they care about. The reason why they're getting people out there for, climate change, pro-Palestinian. This is about keeping your troops in the field. Washington knew at Valley Forge, if he let men go home on leave, they might not return. These political action groups don't want their minions to be idle for too long because they may give up on the cause. And they don't want them being exposed to anything but their doctrines. And who are these people? Why do they do it? They're usually kind of rich people. Or they come from wealth. They're kids of wealth. The heads of these organizations get to be cult leaders, heaped with the adoration from young boys and young women, hailed as messiahs and rock stars. They get to feed their egos. They get to assuage their white guilt, all while collecting a paycheck. And they don't give a damn what happens to their people. Speaking of more leaders who don't give a damn what happens to their people, Hamas official calls for attacks on American Britain. They must pay a price. Look at that fuckwad right there. SEAL Team 6 needs to go in there and just... Hey, he's a terrorist, man. As he said, now is our nation's turn to pressure the Americans to stop this war. I don't know what nation he represents. But he's saying that Palestinians must avenge the destruction and deaths in Gaza from Israel's 10-week war here. Why is Israel there? Because your organization attacked their civilians. When Blinken is justifying the killing of our women and children, the sons of our nations, to say to him, you are the enemy. Right. You must pay a price for the blood of our women and children who are being killed in cold blood in the streets of Gaza. Pretty sure your group started that. Yeah. Kind of ironic. But of course he didn't mention the October 7th attack. Of course he didn't. And the media, to some degree, is playing along. Where is the widespread condemnation of this? The Harvard president saying, well, we don't know about if hatred of Jews violates our hatred laws. You have news agencies that are kind of spinning this so that they sort of still seem like they're on the side of the protesters, not really like providing a lot of clarity. It's very clear. Hamas is a terrorist organization. They sent their soldiers into Israel to rape and kill. And now they're saying that Israel does not have the right to retribution. Well, doesn't work that way, buddy. Nothing you say is going to stop Israel. We were speaking of Harvard. Harvard announces Claudine Gay will remain as university Führer. They don't want to offend the wrong people by firing her. They don't want to kowtow to a single donor. But yet they kowtow to single donors when it comes to progressive policies. She was accused of plagiarism. Claudine Gay responds to plagiarism accusations by giving an inspiring "I Have a Dream" speech. These people are activists first. That's the problem we have right now. They're not school presidents first, activists second. It's reversed. And we're seeing the effects of it. Did not attend Harvard, now number one quality employer seeking and job candidate. Yeah, that may be a joke, but how far off is it? If you were hiring for your company, would you want to hire somebody who you already know is going to try to rile people up? People who might have an overinflated sense of, worth, privilege, whatever. Is that really what you want? No. But UPenn got rid of their president, but she's got a new gig at the Hamas Institute of Technology. Obviously, that's a joke, but, you said what you said, okay? You did not come to the defense of your Jewish students. You sort of supported the hatred being thrown their way. One point of view, no flexibility. The media is misleading fear-mongering over climate change. This is John Stossel was talking to a YouTuber from Sweden. Presidential envoy John Kerry, fuck that guy, says it'll take trillions of dollars to solve climate change. I don't think we could solve it. I think the earth is bigger than anything we do. I said it last week, I think. No amount of money is going to stop the earth from turning. So this Swede says, yeah, there are problems with warmer temperatures. As the temperatures get higher, seawater, like everything else, expands. So we're going to see maybe 3 feet of sea level rises. So then they say, meaning the left, so everybody who lives within 3 feet of sea level, they'll have to move. Well, no, Lumberg says. If you actually look at what people do, they build dikes, and they don't have to move. The Netherlands, in some areas, are 22 feet below sea level, yet the country survives, because that's the way you fight climate change. You adjust to it. See? Fewer people are going to get flooded every year, despite the fact that you have much higher sea level rise. The total cost for Holland over the last half century is about 10 billion. Not nothing, but very little for an advanced economy over 50 years. So you spread that 10 billion over 50 years. Not a lot of money. In other words, if the sea rises, put up a seawall. It's that simple. It's that flexibility. It's that we're not going to ignore it. We're not going to monetize it. We're going to build a wall. That's what we're going to do. Once again, the answer is build a wall. How do we fix the southern border? Build a wall. There you go. For saying things like that, Lumberg is labeled the devil. Why? Because the problem is this unmitigated scaremongering, he says. A new survey shows that 60% of all people in rich countries now believe it's likely or very likely that unmitigated climate change will lead to the end of mankind. This is what you get when you have a constant fear-mongering in the media. They fear-monger. It's not just fear-mongering. It's monetization. You scare people into giving you money. Why else would you do that? As he points out, as temperatures go up, we've seen about 100,000 more people die from heat. But almost 300,000 fewer people die from the cold. That's how it works. If you only mention the 116,000 people who died from the heat without mentioning the 283,000 fewer people that died from the cold, it looks bad. Only show, like he's going to say right here. His argument is not that climate change is great or an overall positive. It's simply that, just like every other thing, it has pluses and minuses. Only reporting on the minuses and only emphasizing worst case outcomes is not a good way to inform people. He just summed up the whole media right there. If the media doesn't talk about what was on Hunter Biden's laptop, if the media covers up Hunter Biden's laptop. Is that what we want from our reporting services? Or do we just want the story? Because that fear-mongering has led to stuff like this. Biden has pledged to shut down 60% of America's electric power. I'm sure he'll tell you that he's going to replace it with solar and wind. But how does that work in countries where the wind can get too high or the sun doesn't come out? This came out of the Dubai conference, the COP28. And it's likely not going to change anything. But they will stop production of all new coal plants. They will impose regulations that will virtually shutter coal plants because it would be impossible to comply with. Kamala here is trumpeted the next day new rules to sharply reduce methane. They call methane a super pollutant. But methane comes from natural gas. So there'll be a ban on natural gas power plants. And the worst part, the media is not making a bigger deal out of this, but eradicating coal and natural gas will literally ravage. Upwards of 60% of our electrical power will go away, and soon. Coal still provides roughly 20%. Look, that number's getting down. Natural gas supplies around 40. You put those two together, that's 60. Right? That's math. How are we supposed to believe in a party that pushes EVs and also pushes less electricity? Power everything with electricity, but we're going to give you less. If your local news or the major newspapers in major cities talked about these things, maybe the public wouldn't be so gullible and go along with it. We don't have a plan to reduce this. You want a plan? I can give you a plan right now. Look, you build a reservoir up here. You collect a bunch of water, okay? Then you create a sluway down to another reservoir, okay? Then you stick, like, whatever those electrical generators right there. You let the water out. The water goes by. It spins a paddle wheel that spins a drum that creates electricity. There's a plan. There you go. Then when the water gets down here, in the lower one, we could use it to water our crops. Hell, we could probably even get it into our water supply. There's a plan. It's probably going to cost as much as their fucking cockamamie plan. And their cockamamie plan is going to leave us vulnerable. Without gas and coal plants, hospitals, the internet, construction projects, factories will be routinely shut down when unreliable alternative energy sources like wind and solar aren't delivering enough juice. You want to build solar and wind, but in some parts of the country, you will have to have a backup. Nuclear. But we don't want to do everything on nuclear, so we have to look at alternative ways of getting this. And we're going to go back to the flexibility. We're going to go back to rejecting the idea of only one point of view. Let's look at this. The Democrats say no coal plants. The Republicans say build new coal plants. What do we say? What are we going to say here? Let's build clean plants and fix the broken plants. If the government wants to impose these kind of emission restrictions, then they should pony up. I would rather clean up a Virginia coal mine than put charging stations in Kansas, because one makes sense. If we are going to go green, we know that we need a backup. So just make the backup. Have the balls to stand up to your people and say, look, we can't get rid of every single natural gas facility, okay? But we could try to clean them up. We could try to make them better. But just shutting them down? So, really quickly, here at the end here, there's a lot of debate about whether we have a good economy or a bad economy, and I found something that pretty much sums it up, okay? Right now, inflation has gone down, okay? But first of all, Prices are up 17.2% since Biden took office. Bottom line, on average, things have gone up 17%. Okay? That's not a great economy. Okay? Right here. The decline in disposable income. The average for the president since JFK is plus 4.5%. In other words, people had a little bit more disposable income year after year after year. Under Biden, we've had a decrease of 2.7%. Look, this is not a matter of how big of a number it is. It's a fact that it went down. For the first time in many people's lifetimes, they have less disposable income. That's not a good economy. Okay, that's not a normal economy. All right? Like it says at the top here, Etrin explained that the decline in disposable income largely explains Americans' bleak view of the economy, despite other economic metrics tending in positive directions. Because this was done on CNN. But who is this guy? The data reporter for CNN. And he's saying that's what it is. And I'm here to co-sign that and say exactly. What we see as individuals is not a positive economy. So this week, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Dudes wasting beer, pouring it down their pants. If somebody could explain that in the comments, that would be awesome. If you could tell me how the hell that started. And while we're on the subject of the comments, let me know if there's something you want to hear my views on. I'm open to suggestions. I'm just trying to build something so that we could get a centralist viewpoint out there. That's it. I'm trying to destroy the Republicans as much as the Democrats. So please, whatever you can do, the likes, the comments, all of that'll help. I may not always be right, but I'm trying for answers, and I'm flexible, and I don't look at things with one viewpoint. But back to the dudes wasting beer, pouring it down their pants. The other thing I saw a few times out of some of the people I follow, like Larry Elder, is a saying. When the civil rights movement lost credibility was when they went from equal rights to equal results. And that's where we're at right now. It's not good enough to have equal rights. It has to be equal results. Nobody is responsible to guarantee results. That's all on the individual. That's on you. That's the problem. No one is being held accountable. People are not being held accountable for their own actions. We need to do that. Let's unalive, as the kids might say, unalive that. Let's demand accountability. That's another tenet of Purple State. Flexibility, accountability. We have to hold these people accountable for their stupid decisions. Look, I understand why you are a progressive voter, if you are one. But you have to admit that it's not working in California. So look at the parts of your philosophy that aren't working, remove them, and let's get back to rebuilding our country back up again. Let's build up being American again. Let's come together. Let's not divide. And the only way that's ever going to happen is if we hold these people accountable. And that's what we have a chance to do in 2024. We could say, fuck Joe Biden. Well, he's not running. Fuck Gavin Newsom. Fuck Donald Trump. We're going a different direction. Let's stir this shit up. Please, I'd love to hear from you. Write to me, care of Kid Copious from Purple State Party. And so are you. Peace, y'all. Love one another. And please, during this week, try to see a different point of view and dance it out.